just then India was attacked by China from the north. So there was the Cuban Missile Crisis in the west, and in the east there was this crisis between China and India. China started invading India from the north just then. So it was a very critical time. So we feel that this meeting that Baba was having had all this significance inside. So in any case, when it was time, just a day or two before the East-West gathering, Baba's demeanor suddenly changed. We were in the room in front of him and sitting privately, and we saw all of a sudden that his countenance began to bloom, and all the color returned into his face. So far he was looking very pale and haggard. Just a day or two before, it began to change, and he sort of was making an effort to come out of that state, and he eventually looked quite radiant, and a big change came over him. And then he let it be known that what he was working for, we had no idea that it was this crisis all over the world that I was trying to avert, and that was the cause of all the suffering that you saw that had in the body. Yeah. So he said that I had to work very hard to avert the Third World War, which was just on point of being declared. So that was the crisis. And then, of course, on the meeting day, Baba looked very radiant. The Westerners would come in the morning, and they were really charmed to see Baba's face and how he looked, and the beautiful discourses that he gave them. In the afternoon, the first day, the Westerners were all in the front row, the Easterners at the back side, and it was a nice, clear, warm day in November, and Baba sent one of the Bandli out to see, will it be clear? Will there be any rains today? And he went and said, "No, Baba, there is not a cloud in the sky." So that Baba would say, "Fine." Again, he would send people out to see, and sure enough, after some time, big clouds began to gather, and midway during the afternoon session, it started to become very cloudy, and it started to rain, and rain so heavily that the whole crowd there of about 10,000 or so, I think, you must be seeing in the photograph outside. So they were all totally drenched, because it was all in an open area with just a pandal at the top, and it was cloth cover. Nobody thought that it would be raining at that time. It was winter season we don't usually have rain, and this was most unusual. So everybody was drenched, and Baba said all should sit where they are and not to move. So they all sat through the whole thing, and Baba was giving his darshan, and people were coming to bow down to him, and they were all in queue. So it was a sight to watch. And then, pardon?
પહેલે દાડે બાબાની આરતી પણ થયેલી ને
પહેલે દાડે શું?
હા સાત બૈરા હોય.
Even cage ke pelle dare on the first day 7 women did Baba's aarti, performed Baba's aarti.
7 કલાકના
At the end.
At the end.
એન્ડમાં નહીં થયું, પહેલા થયું.
પહેલે થયું.
હા પહેલે થયું, પણ એમાં હું હતી.
અચ્છા અચ્છા.
હા એ આરતીમાં હું હતી.
She said that 7 women had performed the aarti
And she was one of
the
them.
afternoon session before
the darshan started.
બહુ વરસાદ આવે.
And then it started to rain. She was one of them.
One of the 7 women who performed aarti in front of Baba.
And then when the whole storm cleared up, everybody was totally drenched, but they kept sitting where they were, and then Baba asked some of the Western women to go inside and go and change their clothes. So they all went into the mansion adjoining the pandal, and the Eastern women of Baba, Eastern Mandli, like Mera, Mani and all, they had brought some clothes with them. So they gave their clothes to these Westerners to wear, and they came out again with these Eastern women's clothes on them.
Just blouses and skirts.
આ તમને ખબર હશે.
હા
આ વરસાદ માટે બાબાએ એમ કહ્યું કે યાત્રાએ તમે જાઓ ત્યારે તમે નદી નાળા બધે નહાવ ને તમે તે કે એ તમને લોકોને મારા દર્શનમાં મારા એમાં આવેલા છો એ બધાને તમને નવરાવા આવે.
So Baba then said, she said, that Baba told the crowd that people go for pilgrimages, suffering great hardship on the way, crossing rivers and streams, facing rainstorms and all.
No, they go and they take dips in holy rivers and lakes, to purify themselves.
Yeah.
He said, I have brought the purifying water here for you. So you don't have to go anywhere.
So this is a baptism for all my lovers here.
Wow.
And there's a purpose for this. So they were all happy in Baba's presence. His presence was so radiant that they forgot all about this. And in an hour or two, they all dried up there. It was quite warm and clear after that. But some of the Westerners came out, Western women came out with the Eastern women's clothes on them. Yeah. So it was a thorough getting together of the East and West.
You said that there was also the Chinese invasion at the same time.
Louder, you have to speak louder.
The Chinese war.
The Chinese invasion.
The Chinese invasion was there.
But we threw them out.
And during the public darshan, some press photographer had come. So he asked Baba, what do you think will happen about this Chinese aggression? They are invading us. So Baba says, since I am born in India, India will be ultimately victorious, and that the Chinese will go back. Now one Baba lover who was in the Air Force, he yeah, he was working in the war office, and he wanted to attend the meeting, and he had taken leave And when he was about to come here, the emergency was declared in India because of the Chinese aggression. So he had started to come to Pune from Delhi, and they immediately sent marshals to ask him to come back because it was an emergency and that he should be back at the headquarters to be advising the government about the war. So he evaded the marshals and came.
Evaded?
Yeah, and he was with Baba. He told Baba what's happening, and Baba says, "Be here, my nazar is on you, don't worry." But immediately after the East-West gathering, you must go back. So he was there, and then he had heard what Baba had said, and when the whole thing was over, he went back. What had happened was that the Chinese had invaded India and had captured several hundred miles of Indian territory. They had descended from the mountains into the plains. And then unilaterally they declared a ceasefire and started to retreat. Just as Baba had said, they will go back.
Wow.
And this Baba lover, he had gone in the meantime to the War Office again, and his boss said, "Well, you have been to your master. What did he say about this war?" And he said that my master has said that the Chinese will go back, that they will retreat. So he scoffed at the Baba lover and said, "Have you ever heard an invading army, victorious army, going back on its own? What nonsense is all this? This is why I'm telling you, stop following such people." I said, "Well, that's what my master said." And that night, the Chinese declared the unilateral ceasefire. So the next day, the boss meets this Baba lover and says, "I think, well, there's something to your master. We've never heard this ever in history. It has never happened before."
Why did they do that?
Pardon?
Is there any obvious reason why they did that?
What?
Was there any obvious reason why they retreated besides Baba's
just
work?
like that.
Divine command.
So it was a mystery to everyone.
Baba's key.
Yeah.
He put the thought
Otherwise
in
they
the
could have
general's
come
head,
right
right?
in.
Yeah.
So it was quite a critical time. So this was how the East-West gathering happened. So that was the first day, the darshan and all that. And it went on like this
Was there any
for
threats?
4 days. It was a glorious event.
My father tells me, I remember him telling me of the time of the Cuban Missile Crisis, and he said everyone was absolutely convinced that it was going to be World War III. You know, everyone was building bunkers, and
Yeah, it was
everyone was convinced it was going to be a nuclear war.
annihilation.
They were doing, where I was in school, kid at school, I remember the atmosphere was so tense, and they were having these like air raid drills. Not that if there was a world war it was going to protect you or anything, but they'd make all of us, like get under our desks
Yeah,
as though there was an air
Dad
raid.
said the same. It wouldn't have done anything.
It wouldn't have done anything, but
Was there,
With the
everyone
atomic war.
in school was,
was there any threats from the West, America or Europe, whatever, maybe via the UN to China about that invasion, that they should stop? They should.
In 62, was there any threat against China from the UN or other Western powers to stop the invasion?
Nothing.
No.
No threat.
No, nobody said anything.
And India was not at all prepared to